my children! We have passed the halfway point of Rachel Rising and have seen so much death, rebirth, witches and devils. So, what is next for our undead heroine?
When we last left off, Rachel and Zoe had successfully foiled Lilith's plans for destroying the town of Manson, with a knife handed to the girl by a demon named Malice. Our heroine had to let go of her beloved James, whose soul resided in her undead friend Jet.
This must be really confusing if you decided to check out this video before any of the others.
With Lilith's spell stopped, the town of Manson is finally recovering and some time has passed. The snow has melted, though creating a bit of a small flooding issue, and drowned out most of the plague rats that had infested the pipes. The others... well, Zoe, the serial killer child who is not a child, is busy blowing them up with firecrackers. Aunt Johnny is even back in her own body again. Mind you, being among the living isn't that great right now for her, especially knowing that her wife Carol tried to kill them all and commit suicide. But that's the thing, none of them can really believe she'd do such a thing, especially after they show Aunt Johnny the suicide note, and it's not in her handwriting. In fact, it doesn't even sound like her. Someone else wrote it and signed her name. Someone killed Aunt Johnny's wife and tried to kill them all. It wasn't Lilith, not her style. If she was going to kill you, she'd want you to know she was the one doing it.
Same, really.
With Rachel's memories and experiences restored, she's able to put together a healing gel that finally closes up her and Jet's wounds. Even Aunt Johnny's atrophied limbs are healed by it. Still, after she gets ready to head home, she finds a strange scar in the back of her head. Zoe informs Rachel that even with the satanic weapon used on Lilith, she's not permanently dead. The curse on her cannot be broken by anything, doomed to live on Earth forever, even if she's buried in it. Touching the blade with her newfound tactile psychic abilities, Rachel is able to see its entire history, from Zoe's killings all the way back to Satan wielding it as a sword in ancient times. Zoe is somehow able to handle these visions, though she does ask Rachel why she even looked.
Good TV, I'd say.
Malice, meanwhile, of course survived Zoe murdering him in the priest's body, transferring himself to a passerby who had witnessed the killing. He lies to the police about it while murdering the woman's husband with helium. The body is taken to the morgue where it was originally ruled a suicide by the police, but Aunt Johnny is suspicious. Nothing in the report indicates they found a roll of tape around the body, despite him supposedly taping the bag over his own head. When inquiring about it with the police, they send over the man's suicide note, which is word for word the one supposedly written by Carol. Rachel visits an old friend of hers who works the fast food joint and casually tells him about how she was strangled to death, buried in the woods, and then climbed out of her own shallow grave, and now intends to find the person who did this to her and hand them over to her little friend who likes to stab people.
You know, small talk.
Still, the friend, Rooter, takes it all in stride and offers to put out some feelers to see who might have done it. While Rachel goes to see Jet, Zoe walks off to use the bathroom and runs into an old classmate of hers from elementary school, who's naturally confused why she hasn't aged in decades. Not wanting any witnesses to hear about her still being like this, she murders him. Apparently, his likeness was taken from a real fan of the comic for a contest to be killed by her.
My children, it warms my unbeating heart to know that so many of you want to be murdered.
Since they can't tell the police about what happened with Carol, Aunt Johnny can't inform the police there's a serial killer on the loose. As such, she brings Rachel in to try to use her ability to see if she can find any details on the man's death. She sees his wife kill him, but gets even more than she expected, knowing that something changed in his wife after she saw Zoe kill the priest. Rachel rants at Zoe over this when she realizes that she was indeed there, figuring that Malice must have possessed her, though she leaves that detail out to the others, only lamenting that there is no escape for her predicament. Zoe tracks down Malice, informing him that she'll do everything she can to prevent giving birth to the Antichrist, murder anyone who tries to touch her, get 1,000 abortions, stab the baby as soon as it's born, anything to prevent it. Malice plays dumb, though when Zoe tries to grab him by the arm, he screeches inhumanly and tosses her away. Rachel, meanwhile, tracks down the kind of rope that was used to murder her and decides to try to recreate her own death-a-bit to find answers. Malice, meanwhile, was actually poisoned by Zoe. She pays 2 people to leave the dying body out in the woods, saying to make sure it's still alive before they leave. While Zoe discovers the unconscious, more dead, whatever, Rachel and calls Jet for help, Malice manages to outwit her again. Birds peck at the body he was in until a bear comes along, and apparently a bear is close enough for the job, allowing the demon to possess it, then attack a man to possess him, and in turn murder the man who was sleeping with his wife. While Rachel is unconscious, she seems to be like a ghost, visiting a cemetery, where a little girl named Claire can see her, even handing her a flower and saying that it's a gift from Rachel's mother. And says that she got the flower from the man on her street who plants them over the dead bodies in his yard.
There are a lot of awful people in this town. Maybe they should have just let Lilith destroy it. But that's it for this section of Rachel Rising. More low-key than the last few, and yet still plenty of murder.